sure it's on?
It's on. Yeah, it's on. See, it's on. It's on like Donkey Kong. So we're here in the car.
Driving through Texas.
Yep. We're in the middle of. We're kind of in between Dallas and Amarillo right now. We just left Dallas. Justin is obviously driving. We were in Dallas for a couple of days. We moved out of our old storage unit. We let the movers in, and we're driving the car back. And how many days are we going to be on the road?
4.
4 days we're going to be on the road.
Oh,
there it is.
There's the RV park.
We stayed at this RV park.
Back 40.
Looks the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're in the middle of Kanawha right now. I guess Kanawha, Texas.
Yep.
Little tiny town. I want to see around everything. But yeah, we're taking the 4 or 5 day trip back home to Oregon.
Yep, cheaper and safer than trying to ship the car back.
Actually, the shipping the car back was about the cost of the move of everything else. So.
Yeah, movers have all of our stuff, and we're all set. Saw a couple friends in Dallas.
Yeah, the hardest part is always saying goodbye to your friends. That's the hardest bit, like after you see them for a while, but... Hey there, I've managed to finish writing my book and to buy a house within the last 30 days. It hasn't been easy, it's frankly been kind of a whirlwind, but I've really enjoyed you guys cheering me on. In today's episode, I'll talk about how moving in has been going, but first, here's a bit of inspiration. Today's is by JenAshleyWright on Twitter. People talk about caterpillars becoming butterflies as though they just go into a cocoon, slap on wings, and are good to go. Caterpillars have to dissolve into a disgusting pile of goo to become butterflies. So if you're a mess, wrapped up in blankets right now, keep going. If there's anything you got out of today's video is the following. The messy middle is part of the transformation. The process of becoming something new, whether it's because you're finishing a book, moving cross country, starting a YouTube channel, or starting a new chapter in your life, however that might look, often looks and feels chaotic. This tweet reminds us that transformation isn't glamorous. It's messy, uncomfortable, and sometimes downright gross. But that's where the magic happens. The first thing you need to do is embrace the mess as necessary growth. Like the caterpillar dissolving into goo, the mess and uncertainty are not a failure. They're part of the process. Whether it's the challenge of navigating snowy mountain passes, unpacking boxes in a new home, or figuring out what's next. Remind yourself that discomfort and disorder are signs that growth is happening. The next thing to keep in mind is that transformation happens in the transition. For me, the trip back to Texas, the long drive, and the new routines felt overwhelming. But these transitions are where we change the most. The messy in between is often where clarity and strength are built. It's okay to feel like a pile of goo while you're navigating it. And finally, keep going even when it feels uncertain. Transformation doesn't come from rushing through the process, from boogieing through those messy middles. It comes from enduring and showing up for the journey. Whether it's building a new YouTube channel, figuring out a new space, or simply managing the unexpected, whatever that looks like. Trust that each step takes you closer to a new beginning. Okay, so I want to give a heads up before I start talking about what's happened that you might actually hear some strange noises in the background. I'm hoping they don't get picked up my audio, but the sewer crew is still out front jackhammering concrete that looks like they laid the pavement wrong the first time and they had to rip it up and start over again. Speaking of messy middles. But as I mentioned, everything is proceeding with the house, and I wish it were proceeding faster and more flawlessly, but I'll take what I can get. Okay, so since I last updated this vlog, we flew from Portland, Oregon, where we're located, all the way back to Dallas, Texas. And the reason we did this was to let the movers into our storage unit so that they could load it up onto their moving truck and bring our belongings out here to Oregon. We lived in Dallas for about 4 or 5 years before we started living in an RV full time, traveling all over the country, figuring out where we wanted to move next. And Northwest Oregon is where we decided we wanted to stay. It was our favorite place. People are wonderful. It's beautiful here. Anyway, while we were letting the movers into our storage unit, and then we took our other car, which was in the storage unit with our belongings, and we drove it back across the country to get back home. Things went great with the actual movers. They actually commented on how well we packed everything, how easy it was. It literally took them 30 minutes to get everything out of our storage unit and onto the truck. It actually took the truck driver the same amount of time to do the paperwork as it did to get our stuff onto the truck. It was a really tiny move. And then after we had met up with the movers, we actually drove out to my dear friend, my best friend in Texas, her farm, which is way out in the middle of nowhere, but it was well worth it. I was in love with these baby pigs. Let me show you. Hello, beautiful.
I don't know, what's... Yeah, we just... Oh yeah, we bought these at Canada.
Oh.
It's like, can't have just one. Oh, Peanut, stop. Here, I'll take her. Come on.
That was really good. We caught up, had Hawaiian food out there with them. And then the next morning, we met up with another one of our close friends in Dallas at a New York style deli before we hit the road and headed out for our first stop in Amarillo. So we stayed in Amarillo, and then we drove another day to get to Denver, where we stayed. We actually met up with one of Justin's coworkers in Denver. Justin works for an all-remote company, so his coworkers are all over the country, and whenever we're near one, we try to meet up with one to hang out. It's just kind of, they have that all-remote office. It's kind of a nice opportunity. With the RV, we've been doing it a lot. We hadn't gotten to Denver, though, because that's a hard city to RV in. Between the snowy winters, the mountains. Denver has a very outdoorsy sort of culture, and there aren't a ton of campgrounds out there, so it can be really tough to find a spot. So we hadn't actually stayed in Denver yet, but because we were in a car in a hotel, we totally could. And then it was pretty much smooth sailing until we got to Denver, and then the third day, there was a bit of drama. We were nervous because there was quite a bit of winter weather in the forecast. And you know how the weather is, it can be really tricky. Denver's about where we pick up the mountains. We had a couple of routes west that we could take. You know, we had the northern route 80 through Wyoming, and then we had the southern route 70 through Colorado, Vail, that sort of thing, to kind of get to Salt Lake. These were the two ways we could get to Salt Lake that day. And we looked at everything, and between the fact that 80 tends to be a little gentler on some of the slopes, it's high elevation the whole time, but you don't really have like the Vail Pass and some of the tricky stuff that you do on 70. And the fact that so much commerce goes through there, so many of the big trucks, so they tend to maintain it better. And then we looked and we saw various websites for YDOT that told us where things were. We basically figured out a schedule through 80 that had us going through all this high elevation territory and sort of crossing our fingers. We did our best to try to time it, and we did really good, actually. We did, in fact, have some snow in the mountains, especially, I think it was Laramie, Wyoming, and it was just enough to be worrisome. I'll show you some footage. But Justin and I are both experienced snow drivers. He grew up in rural Michigan, I grew up in rural Maine. And Justin has some mountain driving experience from the RV, but neither of us had done mountains in the snow. And our car that we were driving was a small sporty thing, and it was pretty untested in the snow. Like, we'd literally never driven this car in the snow. But it all worked out. Justin did great, and other people behaved themselves mostly, enough for us to get through. So we got into Salt Lake, and we had just missed their big snow there. It snowed like that morning, but they had gotten cleared up by the time we got in there. Most of our snow that day was in Wyoming, in just one little area where it was sticking. It was snowing, but not sticking in other places in the mountains in Wyoming. It was really, really close. It was nail biter. But we got into Salt Lake, and one of the really nice things was that northern Utah is gorgeous when it's just snowed. I got some beautiful photographs. It was a really great way to get into the hotel. We got into the hotel, and we went to Target and got some groceries. We had a Town Place Suites situation, so we were cooking some food there instead of going out, and we were reviewing the weather information for the next day, and we saw that there was kind of a chance of snow in the Blue Mountains in Oregon. Our last set of mountain passes for the following day, our final day, which was already going to be a long day. It was like a 12-hour drive home. But we noted that if we left super early, we could probably beat the worst of it. So we figured, you know, between the snow and the fact that Salt Lake City rush hour traffic could be pretty intense, we decided we wanted to leave the hotel by 6 a.m. at the latest. So we ate our dinner, we wound down, and we went to bed super early, knowing we were getting up at like 5 a.m. And unfortunately, at 9:55 p.m., the fire alarm went off. So we got up and we got dressed. We investigated, seeing if we needed to evacuate. We was trying to see if this was a real thing, but it was a false alarm. It's like, oh, no, everybody, it's fine. They're like, okay, well, that's annoying, but whatever. And we're like, well, we have to get up early. You know, it's 10 o'clock. Let's just go relax, fall back asleep as soon as we could. So we did that. And we did. We dropped off right away, actually. It was was nice, except at 11:05 p.m., a little bit over an hour later, the fire alarm goes off again, and it's a false alarm again. I have not been that annoyed in a long time. Justin was livid. He ended up calling the front desk and talking to them. It was really funny because he talked to someone on the phone, and when they were from maintenance, and they thought it was like a manager from outside the hotel. They didn't realize it was a guest, and they started telling Justin why it was happening. And Justin found out all this information he wasn't supposed to find out, that it was, their error, something hadn't been cleaned, and this and that. And Justin was like, well, this is really unacceptable, and we're gonna have to find another hotel if this happens. Get your act together. Which, we are never those people. We are never like the Karen, can I speak to the manager people? But I think just between the rough day and getting woken up twice like that, Justin was like, ah. So anyway, thankfully it didn't happen a third time. And we woke up at 5 a.m. with just enough sleep. So the next day we set out, we did a little bit of Utah that leads into Idaho, all of Idaho, and then Oregon to get home. Idaho was easy peasy. Went by in a flash, and then in Oregon we did have a little bit of mountain snow, but it was actually less than we'd experienced in Wyoming. The passes through there are a little bit more technical. There's Deadman Pass and Emigrant Pass. There's more grade and they're a little twisty turny, but Justin did great. And then we were home where no one would pull a fire alarm on us. So as I'm recording this, the movers still aren't here. We beat them home by a fair margin. I actually have spent several days hanging out with Justin. I took some time off. We did Thanksgiving. The previous owner of the house had left behind a really nice barbecue grill, like a really nice one. So we had gone out to Lowe's. We got a propane heater so we could use it on the patio, and we found some really cheap, good pork ribs at Costco. They were like $20 for a big pack. So we did that, and we made a bunch of Thanksgiving sides. We said, the heck with the turkey. We grilled these ribs. They were fantastic. It was great. We had a nice Thanksgiving, and Justin was off, so we spent a lot of time together. Yeah, so the movers aren't here yet. They should be here soon with the rest of our stuff. We did actually order the rest of the furniture that we wanted, the stuff that was going to take a little while, that wasn't going to be here right away, and that we didn't have in our move that we've identified that we need. We ordered that as we were leaving Salt Lake because we wanted to make sure we would beat it home. You never know, And we also weren't sure at one point if we were going to get stuck in Oregon with the Blue Mountain snow situation. There was a point where it was like, are we going to get stuck in Salt Lake or the Blue Mountains or both? But thankfully we didn't get stuck either place. But yeah, just a few extra things because we had stored a pared down studio apartment's worth of stuff, and we are here in a pretty large house. I still want to keep our belongings pared down. I'll probably go into that a little bit in another video. I'm going to do more about some of the logistics and the money behind buying the house and furnishing it and things like that on another channel I'm going to be starting in the new year that I will make sure I mention here. But yeah, I am really into the idea of having a big house but not filling it full of crap, honestly. Enjoying the space and not feeling like I have to fill every single inch with something I'm not going to need, just using bits of furniture where they make sense. But yeah, lots to do. I just wanted to check in. I have a lot more work to do on the book. I got a little bit of editing done, but not nearly as much as I had wanted to. So I'm gonna have to hunker down here, but honestly, I really needed the break. And that's something, I haven't taken more than a day off since we went to Disney World, which I did a video about. We did that for 2 weeks, and we were sick for part of that, and my family was there. And my mother, I haven't talked about too much, but she can be a little high maintenance and requires a lot of attention. She can be very stressful, so it didn't really feel like a vacation in the same way. So I really appreciated having 4 or 5 days off where we just didn't do a lot. Other than stuff in the house, we've been busy moving our belongings in the house, organizing, putting together furniture as it came, and getting the boxes broken down. We have our recycling bins in our trash now. That was something I mentioned. We didn't have any recycling or trash bins. So when they showed up, we had to get everything ready because we had a very tight deadline, because the recycling doesn't happen every week. It happens every couple of weeks. And all of a sudden the bins were there, and then the next day we had to put out the recycling. So We had all that cardboard from all our furniture and figuring out which trash could hang outside, which trash needed to go out because our bin's only so big, and it's like this trash is gonna stink versus this trash isn't. Like, it's been messy, it's been hard, but I did get some pile of blanket time, so to speak, and I think that's really important. Anyway, I'll probably do another update here in a couple days. I'm catching up on work though. I've got a lot of videos to do for y'all. Get this one out, got some other ones I want to record, but I wanted to pop in and let you guys know how I was doing, and thank you again for all the support. Anyway, it's been great talking to you as always. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.